Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Cormier Productions, here to talk about This Is Us, Season 6, Episode 17, titled The Train, the penultimate episode of the series, with the series finale taking place next week. The episode's description reads as follows. The Pearsons gather around Rebecca's bedside. The episode was directed by Ken Olin, who is no stranger to this series, and written by Dan Fogelman. Before going any further, I will tell you a couple of things. 1. This is not a spoiler-free video, so if you haven't watched the episode yet, please go and check it out, and then watch my video. Secondly, if you like this video and want to support the channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to my channel. This was an absolute superb episode of the series. A fantastic hour of television, with one Marcus Brooks-sized problem. I can imagine being in the writer's room when Dan Fogelman asks a question. Alright guys, here we are, at the second to last episode of the series. What should we do? And one random guy enthusiastically raises his hand and says, I know what we should do. We should introduce brand new characters in the beginning of the episode, completely confuse our audience, make them believe that one of the characters in Marcus Brooks is actually with Deja, and that turns out to be completely not the case at all, and we should have the father of Marcus Brooks, when he was a kid in an accident, meet up with Jack the night he died. And all this is a giant point about how everything is connected and everything has meaning. One thing leads to another in a beautiful tapestry. And Dan Fogelman looks at this man and says, Brilliant! That is a brilliant idea. That's exactly what we should do. And the other guy says, Wait. No, I was just kidding. No. That is absolutely what we're going to do. You're going to get a promotion. But there's only like 2 episodes left. Meh. You can be promoted for 2 episodes. Okay. I don't hate the point that they were making with this Marcus Brooks storyline. I do wish it could have been made more concisely. I do wish they could have cut some of this out so that we could make more time for our characters, the ones we've been watching for 6 years, and actually have a few more goodbyes. Maybe have Kevin say something. I don't even think Kevin had a speech in this episode. He didn't get a chance to say goodbye. He was there, but I don't think he actually said anything. Now maybe when I rewatch this, I'll feel a little bit differently about that. Or hell, you have a world-class actor in Sterling K. Brown. Maybe give him a little bit more time. And, I thought that his part in this episode was pretty good. And, of course, Sterling K. Brown knocks it out of the park. But hey, we could have had more. Or we could have had Kate say a few more words. Or hell, have Rebecca react to Miguel when she sees him with something other than a weird look. We could have made more time for other things. But no, we have to watch brand new characters that we've never seen before and we will never see again. This is the kind of narrative cuteness that Dan Fogelman has been doing for 6 years. And I've more or less hated most of when he does this kind of thing. In certain instances, my friend Stacy has disagreed. I'm not sure how she feels about this. I haven't talked to her about it yet. I'm sure she'll tell me about it eventually. But for me, damn it, Dan Fogelman, I love you, man, but I also hate you at the same time. This storyline ended up confusing the heck out of half of its audience, and they were trying to confuse you. They were trying to make you think that Marcus Brooks was with Deja, when in fact it's Malik that is with Deja. Some people remain confused. The forums pretty much read half of it saying, who the heck is Marcus Brooks? And the other half, alright, I understand your confusion at the beginning, but you don't get it by now? Come on! It is not totally on the writers or Dan Fogelman that its audience didn't get what was going on here. Part of the problem is that the audience, some of it at least, is older and is more inclined to be confused and stay confused. So my question, Dan, Mr. Fogelman, was it worth it? I'm quite frankly not so sure that it was. I think this point could have been made in far fewer scenes. I will say that if you were one of those people that are confused, I highly recommend that you rewatch the episode, so maybe you can pick up details that you did not catch the first time. Or you could just watch my video, and I will eventually explain it to you. We start off with a random black family driving as a family. One character believes himself to look like Denzel Washington, which he totally does not. But what he does look like is Dule Hill of West Wing fame, as well as Psych, where he starred with Timothy Osmond, who has made appearances in the series as Gregory. This happy family time is interrupted by a car accident which causes the car to flip over, and surely someone would end up dead if that were the case. But why quibble? And the instant reaction here is, who the hell are these people? What the hell just happened? And credits. By the way, I watched this series via Hulu, and one of the commercials that cropped up was for a green egg, which completely amused the heck out of me. Not surprised it didn't come with the tagline, "The green egg, it'll cook your food and cause you divorce at the same time." We cut to the future timeline. Not even really sure when this is. 10 years after the original timeline? Not really sure at all. But the nurse is checking out Rebecca, and she doesn't like what she sees. We cut to a train with a much younger Rebecca, somewhere in her 30s, I'm assuming. The train, of course, is a metaphor for getting close to death, to traveling to death. An unseen figure stands over her, and Rebecca says that she's waiting for someone, and the person that stands over her happens to be William, played by Ron Cephas Jones, and it was certainly good to see him again. Now we assume when Rebecca says that she's waiting for someone, that the person she's waiting for is Jack, but that turns out not to be the case at all. William ends up sitting with Rebecca at her request, and she asks about the poem that gave Rebecca the inspiration behind Randall's name, and the poem's name was Luzon. William recites the poem, and if you're interested, I would suggest looking it up. I couldn't do it justice. I don't quite have Ron Cephas Jones' gravitas or his voice. William ends up inviting her to the bar car, which Rebecca is reluctant, because as she said, she's waiting for someone, and of course, William knows this, and says it's okay. Now, there are multiple ways in which you can interpret William and eventually Dr. K's presence here. Is this all just something that Rebecca's brain is conjuring up? Or are these spirits guiding Rebecca to the afterlife? My preferred interpretation is that William and Dr. K are really here in spirit form to guide her, but it is certainly open to interpretation. We cut to the house where the family has gathered, and we're skipping over all the scenes that we've already seen throughout the series, the flash forwards. We're skipping to after those scenes where the family is all together. Toby ends up razzing Kevin a little bit, saying, "Hey, I can pay for my own food," and then says he's just kidding. He's just replaying their old dynamic. Well, maybe the old dynamic of the last couple of seasons. Before that, it wasn't really like that. Everybody is here, and by that I mean everybody. No more speculation, guys. Everybody is alive and well. Maybe not Miguel, and certainly not Rebecca pretty soon, but everybody that we were worried about is alive and accounted for. And Sophie appears indeed to be married to Kevin. The one person who is not accounted for in this scene is Kate, who is on a plane coming from London to pay her final respects to her mother before she dies. The reason she wasn't in any of the flash forward scenes that we've seen so far other than the ones in Kotobi was because she was making her way to her mother. Deja happens to notice that Randall is in what I'm guessing is the living room, playing Jenga. She joins him, and he muses aloud, "We're all together, we're lapping, waiting for Rebecca to pass. Is any of this right?" And of course this is classic Randall, classic overthinking, classic beating himself up, and it's something about his character that I very much relate to, because I do this too. Deja simply says to him, "Hey, there's no instructions on how to handle these type of things. And the thing about somebody dying is that life goes on. It doesn't stop, it just keeps going." Which is soon demonstrated by the fact that Deja is telling Randall that she is pregnant, and that he is going to be a grandfather. And despite his promises to play it cool, he very much doesn't. They of course do not reveal who the father is, they keep referring to him as he, more narrative cuteness. She debates when she's going to get around to being able to tell Malik, talking about how he works. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't know that it's Malik yet, but it's Malik. But she ends up talking about how he works a lot. And then we smash cut to Marcus Brooks. And we are left to assume, based on how we've been taught to watch television programs, that this is the father of Deja's child. He's working in the lab, trying to discover cancer, or rather, treatment for cancer. Cancer has been long discovered before this, but new cancer treatments, not as much. He seems to get a result that he's excited by, and he decides to take off to go inform somebody. When we cut back to the family, the nurse is expressing her concerns that Rebecca is not going to make it till morning, meaning that Kate will not make it in time to say her goodbyes. We cut to unspecified time period somewhere in the current timeline. I have no idea. Eventually we figure it out, but at this time we have no idea where this is taking place or when. It's Marcus Brooks. He's a kid. His life is in danger. Apparently, after the car flipping over, he is the only one that is not okay and whose life is in danger, which I totally don't buy. But hey, that's television for you. We cut to the family scene in the future where Nikki suggests maybe they should draw really sad short straws to see who says goodbye first. But Beth spares them all that and decides to go first. In the train, as Rebecca moves through it, she sees her younger self with her father, and it's a shame that we don't get another cameo from Tim Matheson here. She is eventually happy and stunned to see Beth sitting there, reading The Little Red Caboose, which is the book that she was obsessed with in the Season 6 premiere. Tying this all together, we hear Beth talk through the loudspeaker, and she says to Rebecca that she was the mother that she tried to model after, and that she will take it from here. She will take Randall, the beautiful boy that she helped raise, to the finish line. We cut to Kate on the plane, who's just being informed that she might not make it before Rebecca dies, and she laments the fact that she ever took the trip that she took in the first place. But, as Kevin reminds her, Rebecca did not want the kids to stop living their lives. They wanted them to take chances, to take the big swings, to not make their lives smaller. And that is exactly what Kate has done for herself. And I gotta say, they really don't do much to age Kate very much here. They almost seem to age Randall and Kevin too much, though that makes sense to some degree, because, taking care of a loved one suffering from an illness does tend to age one up faster. But still, Kate doesn't look like she's any older than what she was like when she was 40. We cut to Marcus Brooks, who is reporting to his boss, who is unenthused by the results. Because as you see, their study is getting shut down. So Marcus Brooks did not find the cure for cancer after all. And the boss ends up asking, hey, go home, live your life. Isn't there someone nice waiting for you? And we're meant to assume that the someone nice that could be waiting for him is Deja. But of course, that's not the case at all. We cut to the future with Beth and Randall, and they share a really cute scene together. I've loved this couple since the beginning. So much so that when they put that couple in jeopardy in Season 3, I was not a happy camper. But Randall thinks he's all slick, prepared to tell some big news. But hey, as it turns out, Beth already knows, because she is the mother, and of course she knows. William leads Rebecca to the bar car, and the bartender, of course, is Dr. K, played by Gerald McCraney. I'm kinda hoping either William or Dr. K, or both, make appearances in the finale. But if they don't, this is a fitting send-off for these two characters that we haven't really seen much of recently. Dr. K ends up telling her that she is as tough as they come. She made something beautiful out of the mess that was her life, and she has earned her rest. As we look around the car, by the way, we see Kevin playing with his younger selves. And here's where I would have liked a Mackenzie Hanzisak, Patrick Bates, and Lonnie Chavez cameo, who we haven't seen all season because they kind of aged out. But we're probably going to end up seeing them in the finale in scenes that were pre-filmed years ago. We cut back to the family. Kevin puts on a record, Joni Mitchell, and he ends up being the life of the party, lightening the mood, bringing up memories of the time that Kevin and Rebecca went to Joni Mitchell's house, which we saw in Season 4. Yes, this is a time for sadness, but it is also a time to remember the good times and to make new memories, because life goes on. We have some more goodbyes, which we have quicker edits of. We don't really get to see more of the speeches. And here's where taking away from the whole Marcus Brooks plotline could have come in handy. We could have had longer scenes of saying goodbye to Rebecca. I did like the character of Annie saying goodbye, because she's practically been invisible during the course of the series. And here they make a kind of a point of that. She's the quiet one in the family. Rebecca's advice was, at one point, it's okay to be quiet, as long as you're not afraid to be loud. The spouses say goodnight. Everybody goes to bed. Kevin and Randall wait with Rebecca, waiting for the inevitable, waiting for Rebecca to finally pass away. Back on the train, Rebecca stumbles into Miguel, who compliments her, and this actually doesn't play as badly to me as the first time I watched this scene. Miguel says to her that she is still his favorite person, and Rebecca smiles. She doesn't say anything, but it's alright. I kind of wish she said something, but she is soon ushered away by William. There were those who wanted Miguel to be around longer, maybe even be on the bed with Jack in the final part of the episode. But to me, that would have played visually weird. I don't have a problem necessarily with Miguel not being here for too long. He was the second to last person. Jack being on the bed at the end is absolutely the right ending. I just wish we had a little bit more time with him. For the record, one person who did not have an issue in Miguel's part in this episode was series star John Hurtis himself, who had this to say in an article on NBC Insider. He says, with Rebecca going through the journey that she's going through this episode, it's that thing when you die. Sometimes your life flashes in front of your eyes, he tells us. Miguel was a huge part of her life, and for me, I feel like it's that moment where he's there to send her off to Jack and say, it's okay to walk through the door and find this man that we both loved. And just to remind her of how great of a mother she was, a wife she was, so that she goes in there full and with a smile. And John Hurtis kind of reminds me a little bit of Miguel himself. We cut to Deja sleeping, and she's woken up by Malik, who ran out of the restaurant when he got the text about him being a father. Which, by the way, you're going to text that? That's just awful. I mean, I suppose with the fact that Malik works all the time, that she might not get an opportunity anytime soon. But seriously, a text message for that kind of news? There are just some things that you don't text. You don't text about somebody dying. You don't text about being a father or a mother. You do that kind of thing in person. And no, this is not Marcus Brooks. This is Malik. They don't look alike, despite what some people might think. Speaking of Marcus, he joins his siblings at a restaurant and bemoans the fact that he did not discover the cure for cancer. Well, you know what, Mr. Brooks? Neither did I. There were enough people that thought that this was Deja and Malik at the restaurant, or Deja with Mr. Brooks, to certainly be a little bit on the annoying side. But nope, this is Marcus Brooks with his family wasting our time during the course of this episode. This scene absolutely could have been cut. We cut to the past with Dule Hill, who's worried about his son, Marcus Brooks, who is in the emergency room, currently getting operated on. He's in the waiting room, getting some coffee, when in comes Jack. And my reaction to this was, what the hell is Jack doing here? This one confused the heck out of me. Like, okay, where in the timeline are we with this now? And we see that Jack is bandaged up. He's apparently looking to get checked out. And this happens to be right before he died, the night of the fire. Dule Hill reveals that this is probably the worst night of his life. Aw, come on. There had to have been some moments back in the West Wing that were worse than this. I mean, he got shot at one point during that series. I'm sorry. The character is talking, not the actor. Okay, continue. Jack ends up giving Dule Hill, or we can just call him Mr. Brooks for now, the lemon speech that Dr. K gave him all those years ago. And we cut to I don't know what timeline we're in with this, but the future scenes with Marcus Brooks, and he and his family remember the lemon speech. And the whole point of this, Jack ends up dying because the doctor was not there with Jack. He was instead with Marcus Brooks, saving his life. But Jack's death was not in vain, because Marcus Brooks goes on to develop a medication that wards out the symptoms of Alzheimer's, the very condition that Rebecca ends up dying from. Now, some thought that this medication helped Rebecca, but I am not so sure. I am not sure when Marcus Brooks is getting the award for having developed this medication. There doesn't seem to be any indication about when this occurs in the timeline, whether this medication helped Rebecca or was just incidental and could have helped Rebecca and will help people with her condition in the future. The message being here, of course, that everything is connected. One person dies so another person can live and do great things. Cut to William leading Rebecca to the caboose car, but Rebecca is not ready to go because she is waiting for someone. And that someone is not Jack, like we think, but Kate. And this is very symbolic of how people hold on that should be dead or are dying and wait to die until they can say their goodbyes to the one person that they didn't get a chance to yet. In this case, Kate. Which is why, when we cut to Kevin and Randall, Rebecca is still alive in the morning, despite the fact that they were told she wouldn't be. And I'm sure these two got absolutely no sleep at all. Randall notes that the kids are outside playing Foursquare, a game that Randall and Kevin no doubt played when they were kids, because life repeats itself. And as Randall looks out, they notice Kate running in, bathed in light, and yes, that was a bit cheesy, but I'm okay with it. She arrives at Rebecca's bedside just in time to say their goodbyes, and Randall gives an emotional goodbye at this moment, and he tells Rebecca that when she sees him, to say hey. After Kate has said her goodbye, Rebecca is ready to move on, to finally pass away, to go on to what's next, the afterlife, whatever that may be. She sees a younger version of Kate, the 5-year-old version, the one that's holding a jar with fireflies in it, which is something that we saw in a Season 4 episode during the Big 3 trilogy, Kate's episode, as I recall, where we learn exactly where Kate got her nickname, Bug. She lays down, and then she sees Jack, and, as Randall told her to, she says hey, and that is where the episode ends. Some were wondering if Rebecca had died, or if we were going to see her die in the next episode. But, guys, it's pretty simple here. We don't actually need to see Rebecca die. Her saying hey and laying down with Jack was the exact moment that she died. It's perfect. All in all, this was an absolutely beautiful episode. Yes, I had issues with the whole Marcus Brooks storyline in this episode. I really think that they could have cut this down and made the same points that William ends up making more concisely. I appreciate the message, not necessarily the way it was delivered. But it is not enough to mar an absolutely beautiful episode of television. And this actually could have served very well as the series finale. But nope, that is next week. Anyway, that's all I got for you for this video. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can follow my 2 Facebook pages, the Corman Productions one as well as the This Is Us discussion page. You can buy something from the Corman Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as myself. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is Dave from Corman Productions, signing off.